Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. And in this particular video, what I want to talk about is whether you should get a dog in graduate school. So, if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation, strategy, and entrepreneurship. And this is my dog, Maddie. I just wanted to show her off just for a second. She hates this right now. She's pretty old. She's like 13 years old. And I got a dog. I got her when we first started, or when I first started my PhD. I'm gonna let her go. Okay. Um, and I just want to talk about, sorry about that. I just want to talk about my experience with getting a dog in graduate school. Because I know, so this whole video channel or this whole reciprocity project is there were so many people that helped me out along the way to get my PhD. I just want to sort of share with all the life experience and stuff like that that I learned, and I just want to give back as much as I possibly can. So there are a lot of things to learn when you get a dog, or there's a lot of things that I didn't know, and now that I kind of know a little bit more, I kind of want to share some of this stuff for you. And these are, I think they're pretty useful, right? So this is my experience. So I'm going to tell you what happened. I started my PhD in 2005 in business administration and strategy. And we got a dog, my wife and I. It was actually our wedding presents. We got married in 2005. In the summer of 2005, I started my PhD program in September, or I guess it's, in August. But so our gift was getting this dog. So we had this little puppy running around the same time that I was going to graduate school. I just finished my master's, went in and did a PhD, and I did learn a lot. And then a few years later, we got a Goldie Doodle. She's running around as well. They're both pretty old at this moment. So it's 2018. So that's like 13 years old. They're old doggies. So what are some of these things that I learned? What should you consider when you get a dog in graduate school? Well, there's lots of things, right? So the first one that I would recommend, and I think this was really wise, we never got a dog in our master's program or in my master's program because we were moving relatively shortly. But you should think about how long you should actually stay and when you're staying in a particular location. So, and this is just, it's not me sort of telling you this is what you should do, but you should consider your life is going to change relatively quickly sometimes. So if you're doing a master's program, your life is going to change within the next year or so, depending on how long it is. But generally it's probably about 2 years. And that 2 years after you're done that 2-year program, you're going to go someplace. Your life's going to completely change. You're likely going to meet somebody within, shortly thereafter. There's just a lot of life changes that happen. Sometimes you get into a traveling position, you become a management consultant or something like that. And you're traveling all over the place. And then having a dog at that moment is not necessarily, it's tricky. Let's just say that it's very tricky. But if you're going into a PhD, it was pretty good for me because we were staying in one location for a long time, and we knew that we were going to stay in a location for a long time. So one thing I do know is that most of us tend to misjudge how long we're actually going to spend in one particular location. I myself, and so we've always made the assumption, and it's worked out really good for us, is we're going to stay in one particular location a lot longer than we ever think we're going to stay, and it almost always works out that way. So anyways, so we got our dog, and she was wonderful. She's the worst dog in the world, though, like literally the worst dog in the world. If you've ever watched that movie Marley and Me, she's worse than Marley. Like, honestly, when we got her, she was running around and it was a complete disaster. She would eat everything in sight. She's eaten multiple glasses, like eyeglasses, multiple of those. She's eaten virtually everything. I can tally up the amount of damage that she's done, and it's been thousands, tens of thousands, if not $100,000 worth of damage over the years that she's done. But you kind of put up with it. So that's the second thing, is to point out that owning a dog is actually pretty expensive. And luckily, so my wife, my wonderful wife is in the animal healthcare industry. I'm just going to leave it as that. So we, because I don't want to, get her involved in all these videos and stuff like that. But anyways, although she wanted me to talk about the dogs because she thought that that would actually go get a lot of traction on YouTube because people love dogs on YouTube. Apparently, I don't know. So, anyways, without the help of my wife with her career, then some of these healthcare bills would have been very expensive because they do really stupid things when they're puppies. Maybe if you get an older dog, they're a little bit more calmer. Our dog didn't calm down until she was about 9 years old. So, just to let you know that that does kind of add up and stuff like that. And you should really consider it. It does get expensive if you're going to take, most of us, I think that owning a dog is really just the cost of the food and stuff, but the healthcare bills, veterinary healthcare bills actually add up pretty quickly. Um, so there's some really good things that happen as well when you have a dog, right? So one of them, particularly in graduate school, when I was doing my master's, I would stay in the house for days on end because there was no reason for me to get out of the house. It was a big trip to get out of the house, right? But when I have a dog, it forced me to get out and forced me to go walk the dog on a regular basis. So I end up walking the dog every night. When we started with the little puppy, I was walking the dog. We would walk the dog quickly in the morning and then go do that at night. Sometimes when they're really small, we had to go home and do that. So there was lots of sort of interaction, which was really cool because it was really it was a healthy lifestyle because it got us out of the house. I got to know you get to know your neighbors your neighbors' dogs really well because you're wandering around. You bump into people along the way, right? So you do get to know people a lot more than if you didn't have a dog, and as like kind of that career where you're stuck inside and it's just yourself. It is a really nice thing to have, or it's a nice sort of lifestyle. It sort of complements that career very well. So there's other things you should consider that if you're busy and you feel like you're getting busy in graduate school, you can't and you own a dog, you can't just devote all your time to that, whatever you're doing, right? You have to go home and let them out and feed them and things like that. So it forces you to, even though that you have this sort of deadlines and stuff like that, it forces you to take a break, which is pros and cons, right? Like if you feel like you're extremely busy all the time, that could be really good. But then if you are truly extremely busy all the time, or those moments where you do truly get busy, it could be a distraction. So you'd want to consider that going forward. So a fifth thing that I would definitely consider and think about is when you have a dog. So graduate school, there's actually a lot of travel, or a reasonable amount of travel that happens. It's not like management consulting or something like that where you're traveling all the time, but you do go on trips every couple of months where you go and travel to some other place. And if you have a dog, it really slows you down in terms of that, because you can't just, I can't, if I go on a conference in Philadelphia, for example, I can't leave for, a week or a couple of weeks. We got to go home and get the dogs because it starts getting really incredibly expensive. If you're getting, dog sitters, or you get friends to watch them. By the way, if you do get a dog, don't use your friends that often for that kind of stuff. It does get annoying. Try to actually get a dog sitter, a neighborhood person, or that there's dog kennels and stuff like that. It's just, you don't want to burn your bridges, and it's just kind of a life lesson that I've learned from owning dogs and kids. And I didn't own kids. I don't know how you say this, but anyways, yeah, it's something to really consider. So traveling with a dog and having a dog, depending on the size, I guess. I guess if you had a little wee thing, you could probably travel with them. But it's a bit more trickier, and you do have to think about that. And luckily, my wife is wonderful at sort of arranging this stuff. Again, she's in the animal healthcare industry, so she does that kind of stuff, and she's more of the planner in our life. Another thing to think about, and same thing as traveling, is you can't spend hours and hours and hours at the lab or at your office. So if you are required to do that for your position, if you're kind of doing a lab PhD and you need to spend 12 whatever hours at the office or go to the lab to do these experiments or long experiments, or maybe you're in, maybe you're doing surgical residency or something like that. You just can't leave the office at some of those things, and you can't just go home and watch them. So you have to make arrangements around that. So sometimes it doesn't work out for that kind of scenario. And, if you're tight for cash, which you are in graduate school, pretty much everybody is, it's tricky to consider that. So, just something to think about is if you have to stay so luckily with my PhD, I didn't have to stay at the school all the time. I could run home or work from home and things like that. Social sciences, you can do that a lot more easily. So yeah, you can definitely go home and do that kind of stuff. But if you have to, if you're running an experiment in a chemistry lab, for example, and you're there for a long time, it might be tricky. You have to make sure that you get somebody to go get your doggo. Okay, and I also wanted to point out is that there really is, I've noticed this over the last few years with students that are walking around campus. I work at a massive university. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but I work in a massive, I just want to keep these things separate, right? So I'm working at a massive university, and there is a general trend towards more and more dog ownership at the school. The last but not least is one thing that you'll do notice is that you will, when you get a dog, you're going to smile a lot more, and your life is going to be a lot more funner in graduate school when you have a dog. It's a lot more rewarding, and that sometimes is a really nice thing, because if you're alone in your thoughts, I tend to get very negative, and I know a lot of people get very negative or exhausted at the end of the day. But having puppies and dogs and silly things and making your life fun is actually really rewarding, and it kind of gets you through some of the sort of difficult times that you experience in graduate school. So there's plus and minuses. For me personally, owning a dog was a really wonderful thing, although it's a real pain in the butt with this dog, especially the golden retriever. She's a real pain in the butt, like just miserable in terms of being just the naughtiest dog you've ever met. But in the long run, and when I look at it, over the course of our life, my life and her life, it was, and it definitely was worth having a doggo around. Really wonderful experience, and sort of got me through some deep times, I guess, with graduate school. So that's all I want to point out is, and if this helps you make a decision, just leave comments and stuff like that to help other people make their decision with graduate school and doggos and that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if it's better to get an older dog or a puppy. I don't know. I personally, I don't think we'll ever get a puppy again. It's really tough to deal with a puppy running around. And just being with my wife's career, we probably would get a rescue dog. Our second one was a rescue dog, quote unquote rescue dog. And, it worked out a little bit better for us. So anyways, so that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and do subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.